Sonic Heroes 2. Man, that would be a dream come true. I mean, while everyone else just keeps talking about Sonic Adventure 3 and how they want SA3, I feel like I'm the only one who wants to see Sonic Heroes 2 more than any other game. I mean, except the remastered port of Sonic Heroes 1, but that's for a different video. Now, I'm not delusional. I know how Sonic Team is. I already made a video telling you guys why Sonic Adventure 3 will never happen. And if Sonic Adventure 3 isn't gonna happen, Sonic Heroes 2 is definitely not happening. But either way, people always ask for sequels. The thing about sequels is that just because it's a sequel to a game you really like, doesn't mean it's gonna be better than the original version or the previous versions. So I wanted to share with you guys the things that would make, in my opinion, the perfect sequel to Sonic Heroes, the perfect game, Sonic Heroes 2. I'm essentially going to list everything that they should do to effectively make it better than the original in every single way, while still keeping the heart of the original game. So because of that, I'm going to be referencing Sonic Heroes 1 a lot, as well as other games, but I might not mention every single detail that I want, because if I did that, I'd be here for ages. I mean, I could sit here and argue about whether the ring should be yellow or gold. Like you could go into every little detail, but I don't want to waste too much time. So I'm going to try and keep things to the point. So if I don't mention a specific thing, then it probably means I want it to stay the same as it is in the original Sonic Heroes, because that is my favorite Sonic game to date. And while I know this game will never happen, I'm still going to try and keep my demands somewhat realistic. Most of the things I'm asking for are just going to be things that have already been done in previous Sonic games, things that I know they've done before so they could do again. You know, maybe I have a few things in there that are not too realistic, but oh well. First off, let's start off with how the game should run. Now, right off the bat, PC support, obviously. The game should have mod support. This is very important. Support for higher resolutions like 4K, higher resolution textures. Obviously, I want the game to have amazing graphics like Sonic Generations, because Generations is one of the best looking Sonic games. Also, the ability to run the game at higher frame rates than 60. Like, Generations is capped at 60, so is Lost World, and these days, new monitors are coming out that support 120 frames, 144 frames, so just to future-proof the game, just don't cap the frame rate. Also, the game should have proper controller support for the PC, as in it should support the Xbox 360, Xbox One controller, but also don't neglect the PS4 controller. And you should be able to tweak the graphics of the game in-game instead of in the launcher, because that's just old school, man. You can't be using a configuration tool for, you know, new school games. I mean, it's 2016. Even Generations shouldn't have had a launcher, so. Now let me just quickly touch on menu design. It's not too important, but I might as well mention it. Just keep a similar structure to like Sonic Heroes 1, you know, the story mode, the challenge mode, tutorial, all that. But I really like the design of the 06 menus, so something along those lines would be nice as well. But anyway, let's get into the meat of this. Now, teams. Now, if you've seen any Sonic Heroes 2 dream video or whatever like that, there's always some kind of outrageous team with some OCs and stuff like that. No, we're not doing that. There are a few changes though. One major change and one minor change. Team Sonic should still be Sonic, Tails and Knuckles, but it should be renamed Team Hero. I just prefer the name Team Hero. It's less self-centered. It's less, oh, it's just Team Sonic. No, Team Hero works better. Plus they used it in SA2 and it worked. They used it in Sonic Runners and it worked. Team Dark stays the same, Shadow, Rouge and Omega. Team Chaotix stays the same, Espio, Charmy and Vector. Now this is where the changes come in. Originally Team Rose was Amy, Cream and Big, but we're scrapping Team Rose now. We're gonna have a new team, and this team is gonna be Silver, Blaze and Amy, because I don't really feel like Cream and Big are needed. Silver, Blaze and Amy were together in 06, and I feel like it was a nice combination, to be honest. I mean, out of respect for Big the Cat and Cream, maybe have them in like a cutscene or something just to show that they still exist, but they shouldn't be playable characters. I haven't got a name for this team. I was thinking of things, but I didn't really come up with anything solid that I was willing to keep. So I guess Sonic Team will have to come up with a name for this. Now, you're probably thinking who's gonna be what, okay? Silver will be the flight character. Based on 06, he can levitate and obviously carry Amy and Blaze with him. Plus, in the original Sonic Heroes, the fly characters used Thunder Shoot to shoot the other characters at enemies. So Silver, because he has psychokinesis, he just uses his mind to control the other characters to hold them at enemies. Now Blaze should be the power character. Now that would work pretty well because Blaze has got that whole fire thing going on, you know that 420. Something along those lines of a power character with power type moves would be great for Blaze, in my opinion. Amy will obviously be speed. I mean, she did it in Sonic Heroes, it worked fine for her, so yeah. As for the other characters, there are some changes that I want to make to the way they kind of move and control. For example, Rocket XL should be replaced with a spin dash. Now, a lot of people used to hate on Rocket XL on Sonic Heroes. I didn't think it was that bad, but at the same time, it still kind of felt like a discount spin dash. It was like it was trying to be a spin dash, but was trying to be innovative. Like, nah, the spin dash is just fine. Just keep the spin dash, and that should be more fun to use, honestly. And since I just said that, it probably goes without saying that I want no booster in this game. This isn't Generations, this isn't Unleashed, adventure style control right now. Also, speaking of adventure style control, the bounce bracelet should be available for Sonic and Shadows, because I really feel like the bounce would be a nice added move to have in a Heroes type game, to be honest. The homing attack should control and feel like the one from Heroes. Just make it a bit more responsive so that you don't miss an enemy that you're trying to home into. You could even add the reticles that were in games like Generations and Lost World. I really like the design and sound effect of the reticles in Lost World, so you could use those, but the homing attack was still controlled completely like the one from Heroes. Also, for the power characters, especially like Knuckles and Omega, there needs to be more effective gliding, honestly. I felt like the gliding in Sonic Heroes was kind of butchered in a way. You couldn't really use it to get anywhere. I really loved the way the gliding was done in SA2. Knuckles controlled pretty perfectly in SA2, to be honest. The gliding worked really well, so they should definitely take some inspiration from that. And also, give them the ability to climb, or at least make it a Knuckles exclusive thing. It doesn't have to be for all the power characters, but at least Knuckles should be able to climb up things. And obviously there should be a way to prevent this from being abused in the stages, so you can't just climb your way to the end or something. They have to find a way to do it that doesn't break the stages. Also, I really like the leveling up system in Sonic Heroes. I think it was a pretty fun thing to have, and I want them to keep it in this sequel. Now, there's something else I gotta mention. A lot of people seem to think that Sonic Heroes is slippery. While I don't agree with that, I feel like there's a reason why people say that happens. I feel like the speed characters can carry a lot of momentum. Like, they carry too much momentum when they land. Like, after like being in the air or something, when they land, instead of stopping, they just keep the speed and they keep running. And that's why people think the game is slippery. I think that's at least why I think they think it. So when they land, obviously they shouldn't do that. So it should be like most other Sonic games. Like, when you land, you're able to be in full control and not just run so fast that you're afraid that you might run off or something. Plus, in Sonic Heroes, Knuckles can like sometimes slip off the edge when he's doing shift rock. So I guess you could have like kind of a warning. Like, at least when Sonic was towards the edge of a platform, they would give you like a little warning. Like, Sonic would go, whoa, like just to kind of warn you that if you keep moving, you're going to slip off. So just give that to Knuckles as well, so that if you're like shift rocking or something and you don't want to slip off the edge, it just kind of halts you the first time, so you know that you're going in the wrong direction and you can move away from the edge of the platform. As for the characters' team blasts, I think the characters should keep their team blasts. Just update them. Like, I like the original ones from Sonic Heroes, so just make, I guess, newer versions of that with the updated graphics or whatever. I mean, Team Chaotix's Team Blast was just my favorite. The fact that they would sing badly and that would destroy the enemies, that whole concept was just really cool to me, to be honest. And one other thing, camera control. I don't know why later Sonic games think they can get away with not having camera control, but they need to bring that back, honestly. But apart from all those things I just mentioned, the characters should control pretty much the same as the original Sonic Heroes. As for their designs, while I would say that my favorite Sonic design is probably the one from 06, I think for this game, just use the designs from Generations. I mean, all the characters that I've mentioned in this game for the 4 teams are all in Generations, except I think Omega or something, so I guess they can make a new model for him. But I think the Gens designs are pretty good and they would work well with the updated graphics, so yeah, use Generations designs. Now, when it comes to the plot and cutscenes, I really liked the simplicity of the original Sonic Heroes. story. It was to the point, it got the job done, you know, but I still feel like for this game they should add a bit more depth to it. Kind of like a plot inspired by like SA1, you know, deep but not over the top deep like 06. There'll be longer cutscenes but not too long that they overstay their welcome. I felt like the original Sonic Heroes cutscenes were a bit too short, like very forgettable in a sense. Also, I feel like they should maintain the trend that they had with the original Sonic Heroes, which was using CGI most of the time, while still having some cutscenes with in-game graphics. And I know I said that I was gonna have realistic demands, but since we're talking about cutscenes, use my favorite voice actors instead of the ones they're using now. I don't want to get into detail about all my favorite voice actors, but it would be great to see Jason voice Sonic in this game, obviously, but I don't want to go into too much detail. Obviously, I mentioned earlier that this game should have mod support, so I guess people could mod in voice actors that they wanted to have in the game. Of course, that wouldn't affect the cutscenes, it would just affect the stages, but either way, it would still be cool. Now let's talk about game modes. First of all, there should be a separate time attack mode for all the teams. A mode that's completely separate from the main game, where all you have to do is just get through the stage as fast as possible. I mean, I've seen people complete Final Fortress in under 3 minutes and get a C rank. So there needs to be a mode where finishing the stages quick is actually favored, because when I play Sonic Heroes, I don't tend to rush through the stages. I take my time to kill enemies and stuff so I can get an A rank. Because when I rush through the stages, I don't get the same result. I get like a B or C because I didn't kill enough things. So there should be a separate mode just dedicated to getting a very fast time. I also think it would be great if they had an online mode so you could see where you rank in the whole world, like a world record table or something like that. And speaking of rankings, make the highest rank S, because I know the original Sonic Heroes was up to A, but since then Sonic games have moved to S, so keep it like that and just have S ranks. Also have extra missions. They had this in Sonic Heroes 1 as well, so it'll be great to see them bring that back. It's kind of like different objectives other than get to the end of the stage. I feel like they did that pretty well in Sonic Heroes 1, so it'll be great to see that in this game as well. I feel like they should keep super hard mode, but instead of making it just a separate mode from the main game, have it as like another kind of mission kind of thing, where every team has super hard versions of their stages. And in this case, it doesn't require 100%ing the game to unlock. If you complete the main version of the stage and the extra mission, then you unlock the super hard mode of that particular stage and you can play that. I also want to see multiplayer, and for the multiplayer, they should pretty much just take inspiration from SA2 Battle, Sonic Heroes, and Sonic Rivals 2. Honestly, I think Sonic Rivals 2 has got some of the most underrated multiplayer in any Sonic game, to be honest. The multiplayer in that game was so fun, like King of the Hill and all that stuff. Like I honestly love that. I feel like there should be an ability to play multiplayer with like the computer AI, you know, so you can enjoy those multiplayer modes by yourself if you've got no one to play with. But that being said, multiplayer should also be online so you can play with other people, because that way I could enjoy the multiplayer without having to find someone around me who's willing to play Sonic with me, like honestly. And speaking of online, there needs to be online co-op. Imagine this, 3-player online co-op. One person controls the speed character, second person controls the flight character, third person controls the power character. You use these 3 characters and you traverse the stages of the game. Imagine how amazing that would be to actually be playing through the team-based stages online. Maybe they could also have a local option, I don't know, but I feel like it would work best online. And finally have a sound test, like a music room where you could just listen to all the music from the game and the cutscenes of the game as you unlock them. Alright, now we're really getting into the meat of this. We're going to talk about levels. Now, as I've already mentioned, Sonic Heroes is my favorite game of all time. And the main reason for that is the level design. I just love the level design of that game. Now, I know there's a lot of people that don't like it, but since we're talking about me and my desires, for this game, I feel like the stages should be just like the first game. Nice creative stages. I would love to see something inspired by like Crisis City or Flame Core. Maybe even something inspired by like Kingdom Valley or Aquatic Base. The level design in Sonic Heroes is just stellar, so just carry on those same ideas in Sonic Heroes 2. And also have checkpoints that are inspired by the original Sonic Heroes checkpoints, but at the same time make them wider. So instead of the circular shape, make them like full on rectangular to fill like the whole area of the ground. Kind of like the checkpoints in Generations. They fill the whole space so that you have to run through them, instead of the ones in Heroes that you could actually miss by going around them. Now this point is very important. No 2D sections. Now, I don't hate 2D sections, okay? They're fine when used in small doses or whatever, but they don't need to be here, honestly. I don't see the need. They were fine in Generations, but I don't miss them when I'm playing Sonic Heroes, so I don't want to see 2D sections. Also, they should bring back the horizontal poles. You know those poles from SA2 that you could just jump off of? You swung on them and you jumped off them. They had them in SA2, they had them in 06. Bring those back. I really enjoyed those. And you could use them for like some creative sections in the game where you'd have to like have like a home and attack chain. You could home on some enemies and then go on a pole and then swing. They could do something creative with that, honestly. Also, use that Sonic Death sign thing that they had in Generations, because I feel like that was very useful. It lets you know if there's a bottomless pit below you. It just makes it nice and clear. Even if you could technically tell, it's just the little things that count. It makes it a bit more clear that if you fall here, you're gonna die. As for the enemies in this game, just keep the original enemies from Sonic Heroes. Obviously update their graphics or whatnot. And I guess you could have a few new enemies that are inspired by the ones that are in the original Sonic Heroes, but don't stray too much from that, because it really frustrated me in Generations when pretty much every single enemy required only one hit to kill. Now this point applies directly to Team Hero. I want to see max speed sections, kind of like the ones from 06, but in this case they'll involve all 3 characters. Now in these sections you won't be able to change characters manually. It will all change automatically at the right time. So when you're playing as Sonic, it will kind of feel like the max speed sections from 06. But when you're playing as Tails, because there'll be separate sections where it's like, oh, you gotta go as Tails, you gotta go as Knuckles. When you're going as Tails, he'll have to use his flight to avoid bumping into all sorts of high platforms. They can get creative with it, something along those lines. Knuckles will use his gliding to his advantage. He'll be gliding from platform to platform, and obviously he's Mach speed, so he can't go backwards. So something creative along those lines. I'd love to see something like that. The level length should be identical to the level length in the original Sonic Heroes. I know a lot of people said that Sonic Heroes had stages that were too long, but for me personally, I love the length of the stages. And just really be creative with it. Like, I can't say everything. Like, they have to come up with these stages. I can't say every single thing I want. But there is one outrageous thing I'd definitely love to see. I would really love for a stage to be set in like a university or a college or something like that. Like, imagine a stage like called Station Square University. That's just the name I'm putting out there. It could take you through like different aspects of the university, like from the front gate, you know, like the classrooms, the dorms, the bathrooms, the campus area, maybe even just, you know, pass by the swimming pool or something like that. You know, you could ring dash over a basketball court. Like, just be creative with it. There could be actual humans there, like kind of like, you know, when you play like some of the Unleashed stages, there were like actual humans in the stage. Like, have something like that, but obviously don't let them get in the way of playing the stage. But if they could fit loop-de-loops in City Escape and they can fit corkscrews in Speed Highway, they can turn a university campus into a Sonic stage. Now this is kind of inspired by 06, but every team's stages should have different level design. Now, they did also do this in Sonic Heroes, but I feel like a lot of people complain like, oh, you gotta play all the 4 teams to complete the game. I personally had no problem with that, but I feel like they did it better in 06. For example, like Shadow's Dusty Desert and Silver's Dusty Desert are completely different from Sonic's Dusty Desert. Even though it's the same name, it's still a different experience, and I feel like they should carry that onto this game. And obviously each team doesn't have to go through the same stages in the same order. They can mix up the order, you know, change it a bit like what they did in 06. I would honestly appreciate that. The stages with Silver Blades and Amy should obviously have some things that appeal to the psychokinesis. Chaotic stages should obviously have things that apply to Charmy's ability to do the thing with the flowers, or Espio's ability to be invisible. Obviously stages that involve Blades will use her fire powers. Amy would have parts of the stage that would need to use a hammer or something like that. Stages that have Sonic and Shadow in them would have sections where you'd use the light speed dash and the bounce attack as well. The last thing I want to mention for stages is the music. Sonic Heroes and SA1, SA2, they had great music. Soundtrack was amazing. So obviously something along those lines. Make sure the song obviously fits the stage. Also, they could take some inspiration from Sonic Rush as well. Maybe have a few songs in the game that are inspired by the Sonic Rush soundtrack, because I really do love Sonic Rush. Now let's talk about the bosses. The bosses should be more structured. Like in Heroes, I always felt like there was no structure to the bosses. Like, you'd be hitting the boss would be attacking you at the same time. It's like, I prefer bosses where you have to dodge their hits for some time, and then you have a small window where you can attack, and then you attack them. Like, take a lot of inspiration from the Sonic Rush bosses, because this did this perfectly in my opinion. And also take inspiration from bosses like Egg Viper. Egg Viper is a pretty amazing boss as well. Like I mentioned before, of the stages, have certain sections of the boss where you're like forced to play as a specific character to attack the boss. So you could have a section where you need to attack the boss with Sonic, and another section where you need to attack the boss with Tails, and a third section where you need to attack the boss with Knuckles. Also, the original Sonic Heroes had team battles, and they were terrible, honestly. They were the most terrible. They were probably the worst thing about that game, honestly. But don't get rid of them for this game. I feel like the team battles have potential. They just need to find a way to make them better. Like a clearer objective. I felt like the objective was not clear. It was like, try and get them off, but how do you really get them off effectively? I don't know. So they need to find a way to make the team battles more fun. I honestly don't know how they can improve it, but they have to find a way to do it. As for the final boss, I really love the original Sonic Heroes final boss, so I guess you could make something like that, but obviously it'll be related to whatever the plot is for this game. The one thing I want to mention though is that the focus of this final boss will be on Super Sonic, Super Shadow, and Super Silver. Because I mean, let's be real, like when you were playing Metal Overlord and Sonic Heroes, did you even use Tails and Knuckles? You just used Sonic, didn't you? So the other characters may get a part, maybe at the beginning, but the main focus will be Super Sonic, Shadow, and Silver. Of course, Crush 40 will have to chip in here, you know, make something epic for this final boss. Now let's talk about special stages. To get the 7 Chaos Emeralds in Sonic Heroes, you had to go through special stages. Personally, I think the special stages in Sonic Heroes were pretty mediocre, to be honest. They were alright, but they weren't amazing. I feel like for this game, the special stages should pretty much rip off Sonic 4 Episode 2, but they should make some changes to those special stages to better utilize the Flight and Power characters and their features. And the method to get into the special stages should be the same as the original Sonic Heroes. Now let's talk about hub worlds. Now I don't know how I feel about hub worlds because I mean they only really work if they're executed really well. And I feel like they did it really well in Sonic Adventure. Like I will always go into Sonic Adventure and if say I want to play a stage, I'll just go into the main story mode and go into the hub world and travel to that stage, you know, take a train to the Mystic Ruins and go and play that stage, or the egg carrier. But I didn't miss hub worlds when I played Sonic Heroes. It's a kind of a weird thing. I feel like hub worlds are used to kind of artificially extend the game. So because Sonic Adventure is such a small game, without the hub worlds, I feel like the hub worlds are there to make it longer. But since Sonic Heroes is already jam-packed with content, there's already like 14 long stages plus 7 bosses and a final boss. I feel like you didn't need hub worlds because there was already so much action, so much to play, that the hub worlds would just feel like they're dragging you down. So I don't know, I don't think I would need hub worlds in this game. Unless they did it really well, I don't think I need hub worlds in this game, honestly. Alright, now the last category we're going to get into is the bonus stuff, you know, the unlockables and stuff. So for starters, obviously you complete 4 teams to unlock the final boss, you complete the final boss and you complete the main game. So remember the time attack mode that I mentioned earlier? That will be unlocked once you complete all 4 teams and the final boss. Also, I feel like they should bring back emblems. I always loved emblems. I don't know why they got rid of them, but they should bring them back. Also, they should have 3 red rings in every stage as like bonus collectibles. Just the main stages, none of the extra missions or the super hard versions of stages or anything. Just something to encourage you to try exploring the stages occasionally, you know. They don't have to be red rings, they could be something that resembles the, you know, the silver Soliana medals, because I really love those medals in 06. So collecting all 3 of them gives you an emblem. The DLC, I don't know if this game really needs DLC because it's already pretty packed as it is, but I guess if there were to be DLC, I guess it could be some new stages or something, like some new acts or something, or some new missions. Also, the super hard mode that I mentioned before, that should be unlocked on a stage by stage basis. Once you complete the main stage and the extra mission, you unlock the super hard version of that stage. And once you complete all of the super hard stages, it will get added to the time attack mode that I mentioned earlier. Now, because obviously this super hard mode doesn't involve 100% in the game, there has to be some kind of incentive for you to want to 100% the game. So for this game, once you 100% it, you will unlock Team Metal. Now, Team Metal is essentially 3 different variants of Metal Sonic. So you could have like regular Metal Sonic for speed, maybe Metal Sonic 3.0 for flight or something, and maybe even like Neo Metal Sonic for power. Like, they could be creative with this, but 3 different versions of Metal Sonic essentially. With this Team Metal, you can play any of the stages in the game. Doesn't matter what team it is, you can play it with Team Metal. And their moveset is tweaked depending on what stage they're playing. So let's say, for example, they're playing a stage that belongs to the team of Amy, Silver, and Blaze. In that case, the speed character is going to have a hammer because Amy has a hammer. Or if they're playing a team hero stage, the speed character is going to have the ability to do the light speed dash, the ability to have the bounce bracelet. So Team Metal adapts to work with whatever stage they're playing, basically like a universal team. It's not going to be a broken team or anything. It's still going to feel the same as the other teams, so it's not like a supersonic team or anything, because honestly I don't care about having supersonic in the stages. Once you have him in the final boss, that's all. I don't really see the point in playing supersonic in regular stages. It just seems out of place, especially for like a game like Sonic Heroes where the other characters are just going to be left out. And since I mentioned 100% in the game, I should probably explain what you'd have to do to 100% this game. Essentially, you'd have to get all the emblems. So every stage has a normal version of the stage, an extra mission, and a super hard version of the stage. Completing the normal version of the stage gets you an emblem. Now remember how I mentioned there was going to be 3 red rings in the normal version of each stage? Collecting those will give you a second emblem. Your third emblem will come from completing the extra mission. Your fourth emblem will come from completing the super hard mode. And your fifth emblem will come from S ranking those 3 stages that I mentioned, the normal version, the extra mission, and the super hard mode. So that's 5 emblems you can get per stage. Once you do all that, and obviously complete all the bosses with S ranks, then you will essentially get all the emblems. So that means you're S ranking everything, you're completing everything, and you're getting all the red rings in the stages. Yeah, man. This is what I want to see in Sonic Heroes 2. This would be, in my opinion, the perfect sequel to the original Sonic Heroes. If Sonic Team were to do all these things, I truly believe that it would be the best Sonic game ever. And I'm not expecting you guys to agree with that because this is something that I want to see. But for me personally, if they did all these things, this would be my favorite Sonic game of all time. Unfortunately, Sonic Team is not one to do sequels, so we'll never see something like this happen. And even if they did one day announce Sonic Heroes 2, it's not like they'd be following these points, so I highly doubt that it would be as great as the original. I mean, obviously graphically it would look nicer, but apart from that, I just don't see it being as good as the original. But that's just me, man. That's all I have to say, so let me know what you think of my points. Let me know if you want to see a Sonic Heroes 2. But yeah, thanks you guys for watching. It's been real. Premy out.